Alright guys, TouchGrabby back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday so far. Today we're going to talk about Patrick Aches Price. Of course, an absolute legend of Call of Duty, one of the greatest players of all time, a 2-world champion, has been released by the Los Angeles Guerrillas. He was signed onto this team earlier on this season, only got to play a couple of different events, and then was benched off the squad, and ever since has probably been looking at his next step, right? Is it potentially getting back into playing next season, or potentially on this team? Of course, that hasn't worked out as the course of the season has worked out. Is there an opportunity for him to go into coaching, something like that, or is casting, analysis work potentially a next step, or is it going to be something completely different like what Bryce Vicento has done, starting his own talent agency and all of that kind of stuff? I'm sure Aches thinks ahead about all this kind of things, and he definitely has his head screwed on, so I'm intrigued to see what his next step does lie at, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts down below as always. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, before we get into things, just wanted to mention this tweet: no Benson again at the season finale. This is like esports gears. Benson's done some things with them before, and he says, like, you know, shrugged him shoulders, what's going on? So again, we still don't have any news on what Benson's next steps are, what's going on there, but we talked about this a while ago, that Benson has been released from the CDL for whatever reason, and talked about next opportunities potentially on the horizon. Clearly it's not anything to do with gears, but yeah, still some more cryptic stuff out of Benson. This is what LAG come out with: thank you at Aches. The Los Angeles Guerrillas have parted ways with Patrick Aches Price. We thank him for his time with the team and wish him the best of luck in the future. Now, this is an interesting announcement. We've seen, of course, players the likes of JCap on OpTic Gaming get benched from the team earlier in the season, and of course they have plenty of substitutes, right? Like, you have to have 2 substitutes in addition to your 5-man roster, which at the start of the season was Chino and Goonjar for OpTic Gaming. Then they brought in Chino, now he's back on the bench. Goonjar still on the bench. Now JCap's on the bench and Dashy is on the bench. You've got Drazo and Hollow in the team as well. However, they haven't said to JCap, no, we're just going to release you, and it's interesting to see exactly what the reasoning could be behind this from the LAG. Is it something that Aches has said, look, I want to explore next steps and I'm going to go through a different thing, and, you know, can we just break out of the contract for whatever reason? But it doesn't really seem that way given the tweet we'll look from Aches in a second. Or are LAG just saying, look, given the whole world situation right now, Aches clearly isn't going to be our coach. Like, we have Ricky, we have Bevels as our coaching staff. We don't necessarily need Aches to go into that role anyway. Does he really want to? Potentially not, right? So maybe they've just decided to let him go for whatever reason, just to get him off the books and not have to pay the salary. Then again, as we'll look at in a second here, after we look at Aches' tweet, he's been doing some upgrades on his Nissan GTR, so maybe he still has racked in a whole year worth of salary, as we heard rumoured with Karma, right? Actually retired from the game, but supposedly still getting the salary that he was owed for the rest of the year. So hopefully they've managed to do their best to rinse the organisations. Clearly disappointed with how this year worked out and have a lot of mixed feelings, but that's all I really need to say on the matter. Still going to move forward to what's next with my head held high. I appreciate the love and support. And some replies here from Silly, you know, run it back, peep the header. The header turns out to be their victory at the 2018 World Championship that we'll talk about. And yeah, you know, we get this picture from Apathy, of course, when they won that World Championship. So yeah, you know, just whether he says, like, move forward to what's next, doesn't sound like to me that he plans to return to competing, but maybe you guys read this slightly differently. And as you can see for this tweet, like, he just tweeted this out just before the tweet we just looked at, getting some upgrades on his GTR. Let's look at the tournament results for the LAG so far this season. Aches played the first couple of events at the launch weekend. They had a loss to, I forget exactly who they lost to, but they beat Florida Mutineers in a game 5. Then they went to London and didn't have the best weekend, but it was Aches, Aqua, Decimate, Saints, and Lacefield initially. Didn't have a great couple of weekends. Then they make an enormous roster change. They take out Aches, Saints, and Lacefield, pretty much all the OGs on the team, bring in Blast, Spart, and Vivid to the starting lineup. They go to LA, once again placed top 8, and Spart was really kind of a flop for this team. Like, he didn't do so well the latter half of the season, especially. Like, you know, Vivid's turned out to be a pretty good player, but Spart couldn't really get anything going so far this season, so he ends up getting subbed out later on. But, you know, we look at the way this team has turned out over the course of the season. Only in Minnesota did they manage to place top 4 and actually pick up some prize pool. Every other week, it's been kind of underwhelming for this team. And, you know, would they have been particularly better with Aches? Like, yeah, maybe not, right? But, you know, there's definitely an argument to be said that this team didn't really have too much veteran leadership on the squad, and maybe Aches could have done something to help turn this team around and help develop these younger guys. Clearly, LAG didn't seem like that was a possibility. And it was interesting given that this Bevels Aches partnership had so much fruit to it when they won the World Championship on Evil Geniuses back in the 2018 days. But clearly the Los Angeles Guerrillas management didn't figure that was going to be an option, or at least a viable option this time around. Then they've made another change more recently, bringing Saints back into the squad, but still hasn't been spectacular. And they have just locked up with their top 8 finish at London, the top 12 placing in the CDL. So they are the worst team in the CDL officially, unless they manage to make a run at champs, which isn't overwhelmingly likely, I believe, right now. especially given their domination record is something like 4-19. So they definitely need to win that game 2 or game 1 to even stand a chance in a series. Let's look at Aches' career on the whole then, because if you guys are relatively new to the scene and you don't know what Aches did back in the day, then feast your eyes on this. Of course, the Quantic leverage team in the Black Ops 1 days, first playing with Scump, like he kind of brought up Scump, that Aches TP duo kind of brought him into the limelight, and then Scump went on to OpTic Gaming to create that great rivalry which we still talk about today. Then we go into the Black Ops 2 days, and this is where complexity just went to another level, right? We had the Crimsix and Clayster squad winning every single event, missed out on the World Championship this year, but next year in the Ghost days, they managed to pick it up. So yeah, all these number ones, this was the first real dynasty in Call of Duty, and still the most dominant one in Call of Duty history, in my opinion, especially given the span of these victories. They top it off with the 2014 World Championship victory when they brought Karma onto the team, and then of course going into the Jetpack era, Aches definitely dropped off a bit from his game, because back in the Ghost days, he was a fantastic player. Like, he was slaying out hard. Same with the Black Ops 2 days, really, in addition to being that kind of leadership figure and the guy who could clutch up when it mattered as well. But going into Jetpacks, it didn't really favour this guy's playstyle, and as we can see in the Advanced Warfare days, after an early good team on the Phase Red and a decent result of the World Championship, it started to fall off. Then Black Ops 3 was pretty much a continued trajectory on the Team Envy squad that didn't really do anything either. And then we go into Cloud9, of course, where they get that unbelievable result against OpTic Gaming when they knocked them out in the top 8 placing at the Call of Duty World Championship 2016 before going on to lose to Fabi Games, or Fabi Esports, or whatever they were called at the time. Then he stays on the Cloud9 squad through Infinite Warfare. Nothing particularly happens. You can see these results compared to the results back in the Ghost and Black Ops 2 days. A lot of people thought Aches' career is done, like he's not good at bringing up these younger talents anymore. He doesn't have what it takes to win. Goes into the World War II season, definitely a game that more favours his playstyle, like definitely more comfortable in a more traditional boots on the ground type game. World War II played relatively similar to Ghost in that sense to some degree, which is probably Aches' best title. And then we go through World War II, but still didn't have the greatest result. This EG team the entire year was pretty underwhelming with Apathy, Nameless and Enable, but then they made the change late season, bringing Assault and Silly. And after this good result at the Seattle Open, where they could have won, they came through the winners bracket, but got absolutely bodied by Rise Nation in 2 back-to-back series. They go to the World Championships. I think they lose their first match in the pool or something like that. Then they have to 3-0 the OpTic Gaming squad of Scump, Crimsix, Octane, and Methods at that tournament to even make it out into the bracket play. They managed to secure the 3-0, knock out OpTic Gaming in a top 24 placing, move on to bracket, dominate the bracket. They had a pretty nice bracket, to be honest. They go to the grand finals. They managed to take care of Team Caliber and win the World Championship once again. Remarkable story. Honestly, one of the most incredible stories, I think, in Call of Duty history. The fact that Aches was managing to make this work, having won the World Championship in Ghosts, looked like he was completely out of contention, but still managing to put together a team to win another World Championship a couple of years later. However, since then, the Black Ops 4 season, certainly the Envy squad has never got anything going. Had one decent result at London, but apart from that, that was pretty much it for the entire season. And then going into the Modern Warfare days, certainly underwhelming as well. So I think Aches kind of capped off his career in a sense with that World Championship victory. I don't think he's going to get anything like that once again. And maybe he thinks that himself, right? He's probably thinking, well, are my playing days over? Then again, he's known as the Finesse King, right? He manages to get on these teams out of nowhere. Even if he isn't the most talented at a particular game, he manages to get his way on these squads. Is there a way he can do it again next season? I find it kind of doubtful and kind of unlikely. But it's not out of the question for a guy like Paddy P to make something work next season if he does want to continue playing. But I don't think he'd be a particularly better player next season than he was this season and in previous seasons either. So, you know, to me, it probably makes sense for him to move on to the next point in his career right now. And what might that be? So as Penguin replies to Credit CDL Intel, he was the bench player and captain. Is he headed to Seattle? Well, you know, the rosters are all locked, so unless there's some coach analyst opportunity, then no, he's not going over there. And as Puckett says, the CoD League has an opportunity to bring in a 2-times world champion to grace the microphone for champs this year. So will Aches officially announce his retirement? We talked about this when he was initially dropped, right? Like, is Aches over now? Is anything going to happen from here in his Call of Duty playing career? I think that's somewhat unlikely. But what are the next steps, right? Because he's an absolute legend. He's such an entertaining character. Very charismatic to have on the stream. Funny guy as well. Definitely knows his stuff. If you were to have him on the analyst desk or even as a casting opportunity, I'm sure he could pick up that skill to a certain degree. That's maybe something that Aches might be considering right now. And that's what Puckett says, right? Of course, legendary name in the Call of Duty scene, saying, look, you bring up Aches, you get him in the co-caster with Aches and Puckett. I mean, that could be an entertaining one. Certainly having him on the analyst desk. I think we had him on the analyst desk a couple of years ago. Of one of the World Championships when he was knocked out early or something. That's always great entertainment. When he's been on the hot mics, you just love to see that kind of stuff. So I hope Aches does stay in the Call of Duty scene. I would be surprised if he doesn't. but maybe he wants some sort of more public-facing role than being like a coach and behind the scenes for certain teams, because that can be somewhat underwhelming for a guy like X who kind of loves the limelight and loves the drama, right? Or at least has used that to the advantage to actually grow Call of Duty into what it is today. Just to finish off the video, I thought I'd share another interesting topic which I didn't think deserved its own video, but this comes out of the Toronto Ultra. The parent company, that being Overactive Media, have struck a deal to develop a 7,000 to 10,000 seat esports arena in Toronto. So if you guys are from that area and you haven't heard about this, this is really interesting stuff. The plan is for the Toronto Defiant, the Overwatch League team, and the Ultra, the Call of Duty League franchise, to actually be based in this stadium. And well, in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, whatever their long-term objective is, to have these stadiums filled up by Call of Duty and Overwatch League fans, you know, potentially up to 10,000. I think this is where it's going to be placed from another screenshot I saw, so you know, it seems pretty reasonable, but still crazy. First thing we've seen of this nature happening in the CDL most recently, and well, whether there'll be a market for it, who really knows? Certainly long-term thinking. Right now, that stadium would not be full by any means, but you know, maybe in a few years' time, something to that degree will happen if Call of Duty continues to, well, become more mainstream, as it probably has this year and over the last few years, to be honest. Intrigued to hear all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new. I will see you next time.